Well, you would have, if you've been paying attention over the last 16 years, so you would not have observed at all that I frequently don't preach on the healing miracles of Jesus. And I don't preach on the healing miracles of Jesus because I spend my life visiting people and families for whom healing seems very far away. My ministry in Newquay seems to be predominantly about death and dying. The conversation that we had when you walked in and introduced me to your daughters, and I said we must have met because I've done several funerals for you, and you said that's the reason we come to church is because you did a nice funeral. So I thought we'd do a funeral today. I was looking for volunteers. Anyone? Yeah, a bit of sacrifice. Well, just think about the heat we could generate. And therefore, you find it hard when a young kid of 6 years old gets cancer and dies, and then you have the preaching, the miracle stories of Jesus, and you stay well away because you don't want to give the impression to that family that they're the obvious. You don't want them to think, well, why didn't Jesus save my son? And it's very hard, which is why, as a preacher, you kind of go, whoa. But today, I'm going to maybe just address the story of Bartimaus. Now, the story of Bartimaus reminds me of the scene from the life of Brian. Any nods of the life of Brian, or should we just miss that part? Oh, Michael's got it, anyway. Yes, you've got Michael Palin, who's going, money for an ex-leper, money for an ex-leper. And Brian walks by and suddenly hears, ex-leper? What do you mean, ex-leper? And Michael Palin jumps up and says, well, there was I, earning a living, honest wage, and then suddenly Jesus bloke pops up and heals me, and I got no way of making a living. So now it's money for an ex-leper. And I don't know why the story of Bartimaus always reminds me of that, but it does, because it's very, very different. Bartimaus is begging on the side of the road, and he hears Jesus coming along, and he calls Jesus. He calls out. He does something. He reaches out and says, please heal me. And Jesus responds, your faith has made you well. Jesus didn't do anything. This isn't about spitting in his hands and creating a paste and rubbing it over his eyes. This is purely, your faith has made you well. Now, many people in churches throughout the world say that God will never give you something which you cannot overcome. That challenges in life you have the strength within you to cope with. Now, if we look at the world, we can patently see that that is not right. That actually there are some people in the world for whom life has become too much and they can't cope. But, and there's a big but, for the vast majority of us, for normal human beings like you and me, there is an untapped reserve of strength, of skills that we have that means we actually can, like Bartimaus, reach out and do something to help ourselves. I watch psychologists now. I watch one psychologist. It's a very pleasant way of spending a day, trust me. And when she's at work, it's amazing. All of them say, oh, isn't your wife wonderful? She's healed me. And she says, I didn't. You did. I just helped you to open your eyes to see how you can heal yourself. Or I just gave you some of the tools for you to be able to heal yourself. Some things are out of our control. Some things we can't fight. All life, in the end, will defeat us all ultimately. But there are a lot of things in life that we can fight. And of course, the wisdom is to know the difference. See Peter, not defeated by age, despite having 3 triple heart bypasses. Having half his body is now titanium. That's why he didn't go abroad. You know, they all said they were getting too old to go to Portugal. He just got fed up being frisked. Did you see the Invictus Games this week?
Yes.
Bits of it. The power is within. Now, some of those people, when you listen to them, some of them weren't, most of them there weren't athletes before they got injured. And then they had that strength, they had that determination, and look at what they can achieve. It doesn't mean that suddenly they're all nice people. It doesn't mean that suddenly they haven't got any problems. It doesn't mean that you know, some of them won't go off and have affairs. Some of them won't become addicted to something. You know, what it's demonstrating is that normal people can, in a lot of ways, find a way to fulfill their potential. The power is within. Bartimaus had the power within. Now, Peter's gift, I've used it on Linda today already, but I think we can all agree with Peter, it is pure bloody mindedness. It is a determination that he's going to stay alive whilst I'm here. And for a lot of people, like Bartimaus, who was born blind, they have part of their lives which have become heightened. If you're blind, quite often your sense of smell is heightened. And that isn't unusual, which means they experience the world in a very, very different way. It's like having a super sense. But without wanting to dramatise that, all that's doing is saying that we all have many gifts. And we all have many areas of our lives where we're not so strong. And one will help us handle the other. There is no such thing as the perfect human being. There is no such thing as the perfect fit. We are not, thankfully, in an age where we think that somehow the Aryan race, you know, blue-eyed, muscular, is somehow what we should all be. Rather, we are called, and as Christians we are called to live out and help others to believe that they are loved just as they are, with all their strengths and with all their weaknesses. The problem is that actually Western society still believes in perfection. If you think about all the actors and all the sports people, look at Gary Lineker. You know, everybody wanted Gary Lineker to marry them or marry their daughter. Everybody wanted that. He had that squeaky clean image. All he did was put balls in the back of a net. And then suddenly he leaves his wife and people are aghast. But how can Gary Lineker do that? Think of Michael Jackson. People stopped buying his records when they discovered actually that he had some serious issues. But it didn't stop him being a good musician. You know, shock horror, 1970, Paul McCartney gets arrested for cannabis use. Didn't anybody ever listen to the Beatles albums? You know, didn't anybody suss out that, you know, they were taking substances? Just because he did that doesn't mean he's not a good musician. He is a good musician, if you like that kind of thing. We all have those strengths and weaknesses. JFK. One wonders if JFK's presidency would be remembered very differently if he hadn't been assassinated. Yeah? And let's face it, he made Bill Clinton look like a monk. Churchill, Winston Churchill, man for war, not a man for peace. And of course, the more we read and learn about him, he was a very objectionable man. Hilariously funny, but I don't think he was trying to be funny, he was just being Winston, exactly. Now, we must not make people infallible because they are good at one thing or because something has happened to them. Going off another example, I can't pronounce his name, is it Khashoggi? Yeah, the Saudi Arabian. Because that horrible, brutal murder that he and his family have now suffered, suddenly we think, well, he must be a friend of the West. because the Saudis have killed him. But he isn't. He's no liberal reformer. He's quite hard-line. Now, what has happened to him is despicable and cannot be allowed. We in the West cannot allow geopolitics to mean that we just rub this under the carpet like we normally do. We need to face this one down. But don't think he was a friend of ours. But democracy. I'm on a roll now. Democracy. We all think democracy is the be-all and end-all. But look what democracy gave us. Democracy gave us Brexit. Yes? Now, whether we're for Brexit or anti-Brexit doesn't really matter. But the whole point is we're in a mess. And what I think we all of us, got suckered into asking that one question. In or out? But we'll never will. And that's the question that should have been asked. You see, it shouldn't have been in or out, Julie. It should have been different sets of questions that none of us asked. And there lies the problem. People voted on Brexit largely for what will be right for me. I want to govern myself, is what you've just said. Rather than asking the question, actually, is division and difference what we want in our lives? Or is it unity and dialogue? Which one is more there for the creation of the world? People of God, we, in the end, have to have a response to all these things. And we cannot see difference as a weakness. We cannot see, because someone has a weakness, that they're not a whole person. On the other hand, we cannot see that because someone is good in one area, doesn't mean they're not fallible in the other. We also don't sign up to an ideology. We don't sign up to hero worship. What we do is take a step back and ask questions. And the questions we ask need to be, how would God, how would the Creator see God's creation? How would the Redeemer, who loves God's creation, challenge and enable us to live out a redeemed life? And how would the Holy Spirit keep working in creation to get creation back to where it should be? We, as the people of God, need to be asking a different set of questions and not jumping in on it's right, it's wrong, they're good, they're bad. We recognise that everything has strengths and weaknesses. And we need to ask the question simply as the people of God, where is God in all of this? And if God is in the strength, then we must look for the weakness. Because actually, it's in the weakness, it's in the fallibility, it's in the vulnerability that we will find God.